All right, gamers, time to go back to 1977 and review Carrier Strike. Let's check it out. So in the game Carrier Strike, you are playing one of these air carriers. You're playing for the yellow team or the red team. It's 2 to 4 players. 4 players will play as teams. And what you're going to do is you're going to be using one of these air carriers with planes and torpedoes. And the detail on these look simply incredible. There's some torpedoes that you'll be using against the opponent's air carriers. And as you set up here, you're just going to roll 1 or 2 die. Now the regular 6-sided die is for planes. You can move one or split the movement between 2 planes. For instance, I rolled a 4. One plane may move 4 spaces, or 2 may move 2 spaces each. This die is for your air carriers. You can turn them, that's what the T is for, and the F is for move forward. And how you would do that, you have these little ledges you hold on to, and you would move them up to the little hexagon here, 1 for forward. Or if you were to turn, you just turn this around to the next board. So if you see if I'm here on this line, I had to turn, he would be right here. So the ship would do a little like that. Oh, don't want to lose a plane there. All right, so that's how you would turn or move forward. And that's what you have to do. You're usually doing that only to avoid torpedoes that are being fired at your carriers. So how does this work? Well, if you see, the carriers have an arrow here that shows you where they're launching off at. Let me get this one again up here. As you see the arrow pointing out that way. And what you're going to do is you're going to launch one out, and when he launches out, he's going to get a corresponding torpedo. He can just fit right there within his little filter there. And so he's going to move out. And I move 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now they have, just like in miniature games, they have these little rulers that help you decide when you can drop your torpedo. So if I'm within 6 spaces of an air carrier, I can drop my torpedo. Let's see if I can. Put to mine to his. Ooh, I think so. That's going to work. I'm definitely within 6 spaces here, so I can drop my torpedo. What I do is just tip it up and drop it in the little hexagon there. Now, every turn that I move, it's going to move that way, whichever way. And actually, I have this thing backwards. It'll be moving this way forwards, and it would move up 1 every turn. Now, of course, you see on this level, I missed him completely. So I need to make sure I'm in an area coming in at an angle that he can avoid. So if I hit right here, then I can shoot right toward him. Now, of course, at that point, he can start rolling both die to see if he can move his carrier away before this torpedo hits. Because if it hits him, it's going to rock his boat and it's going to have 1 hit. Now, if I get 2 hits on that, that carrier and any ships on it are destroyed and taken out of the game. So that's how an aircraft to carrier works. What about if you have 2 aircraft flying around and they meet each other? Well, first off, you have another measuring stick for dog fights. And so if they're within 4 spaces of each other, maybe they could be even past each other and say, hey, I think I can get a dog fight in here. Ooh, I can. I got plenty of room. Actually, if he was right here, plenty of room. Both of them touch. Yes, that would be a dog fight. Now, what they would do is they would first off have to dump any torpedoes they had. If they're within range of a carrier, they may dump it toward a carrier. If they're not, then they just lose their payload and they're going to fight. And how that is determined is you look underneath here. They got these little things you can switch out. And this one says 1. They're rated 1 to 4, and you can just pop them out and they're interchangeable with all the planes. That way, you can't label him permanently as number 1, because what if he was scuffed or his wing was broke? You'd say, oh, I know the broke wing guy's a number 1. No, you can pop this out and change it out with another plane. So it's always different, always a surprise for your opponent of who they're fighting. So that one's a 1. Let's see what he is. He is a 2. Okay, so he's going to get a bonus card because, 1 minus 2 is 1. So he's going to get a bonus card. He's a little bit better pilot than the red pilot. So what I'm going to do, each player has 2 stacks here of cards they can pull from in a dogfight, red and yellow. And since red does not have any advantage here, he's only picking 5 cards. Yellow has the advantage. They get 6. So I'd count out the cards, and then I'd look at them and I'd arrange them from highest to lowest. Now they're rated 5 to 1 here, so if I look at, oh wow, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, that's a 3 and a 2. So they would go just like that. Now you won't show the other player, you'll stack them up with your highest card being on top. Red player will do the same thing. They got a 5, a 4, a 4, a 2, and a 1. So what you do is both players would lay their decks down, and then they'd flip over the first one, and we'd see who won. Now, a 5 beats a 4, so there's no need to go through the rest of this deck. Red has defeated yellow. Yellow is removed from the game. Now, what if this was a tie? What if they tied? They were evenly matched, and they tied the whole way. Well, in that case, both planes are taken out of the fight. So after that, you would just shuffle these cards back into your deck and get ready for the next dogfight. The game is over when someone has destroyed their opponent's planes or both carriers. And that's Carrier Strike. Final thoughts on the game. What do I think about it? You know, I've already talked about war games in the 70s, and I've already told you how smart they are. With things like Tank Battle, Chopper Strike, Sub Search. Carrier Strike is another one we can add to the list. It adds a lot of neat elements, and some of them are role-playing elements if you think about it. The whole miniature battle where you have to measure out to see if your character has line of sight or distance. That's exactly what they're doing here, except with ships, you know, over the sea. Real quick though, if I could say two things I don't like about it, it's the dogfights. It seems like whoever is the better pilot is always going to win because you have more cards to play. Now, there is an example that I showed you there where the more inexperienced pilot had the highest cards, you know, the few they carried in their hand, they had a few high ones. So it is really luck of the draw on whether you're going to win or not, and I wish there was a little bit more skill in that. The other problem I have is with moving the carrier. That die is so finicky. What if you wanted to move forward and you turn? That's not what I wanted to do. It's almost like you don't have control over the carrier, and you know where that missile's coming in. Sometimes you'll move forward to the missile. Why would you do that? I wish there was a different rule set. Maybe you can move once, either turn or move forward, so you could slowly try to get away from oncoming missiles. I think that would be better than relying on a die roll. Now, you may want to house rule that. Say, okay, whenever you want to, you can move forward one or turn one. That may play out a little bit better. But other than that, you're a sitting duck at the mercy of the die to see if you can avoid a missile, which, you know, spoiler alert, you're not really going to avoid any missile. It's been very rare that we've ever avoided a missile in that game because the missiles come really fast. Remember, they're only 6 spaces away, and I don't think there's any way you can maneuver with that such a late notice. Now, it could be said maybe before they launch the missile, you could see where they're coming at you and start adjusting right then. But then again, you're at the mercy of the die, and you have to do whatever the die says. So you don't really have control over your carrier. I don't like that either. All right, so with all the bad out of the way, let's talk about the good. Man, the pieces look great. I love how the carriers interact with the fighters, and they basically really do take off of that air carrier strip and fly away. I like how they dump their torpedo. The mechanics of it look really good. The game board looks really good. And if you house ruled with the carrier, I think this would be an excellent game. Excellent game. If you are into vintage games and you're thinking, ooh, is this worth it for me? Well, hopefully I've shown you if it is or not. For me, it's definitely a welcome addition to my collection. I'm super happy I have it with all the other little military games I have from the 70s. All right, gamers, that's all for now. Until next time, game on!